You are listening to SPN, the Sports Podcasting Network. The Five Rings Podcast, 2016 Rio Summer Olympics edition on the Sports Podcasting Network.
And welcome to the Five Rings Podcast. I'm Duane, Rollins here in Toronto. Kevin Laramee joins me in Montreal. We're not going to give our normal little banter, Kevin, today because we have a special guest on the line joining us from London, Chris Lambert, the former British sprinter. Thanks for taking some time today, Chris.
No, that's all, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Chris, you're a former Olympian, and that's something Kevin and I unfortunately cannot talk to. So let's just start with that right there. What does this mean as an athlete? The opportunity. This is a general, broad stroke question I'm going to ask you. Just what does it mean to have that title attached to you for the rest of your life as an Olympian, Chris? What's that mean to you?
It's I'm going to put in a slight correction, all in good heart, in that you're never a former Olympian, right? You're always an Olympian. You've always done it, and that's the answer to your question as well, because it's always with you. It's always a part of you. There's always an affinity and emotion attached to it. Every 4 years, you go through this cycle of, man, I wish I was still out there, but look at all these great guys out there who I love and who I hate because I'm not out there anymore. And it's fantastic.
And your Olympic experience had some disappointment attached to it, but it sounds like you've maintained a strong attachment to being there. How long did it take you to sort of recover from that and take full appreciation for your career and your experience at the Olympics?
If I'm honest with you, I'm not entirely sure I'm there yet. It's it's 12 years ago, and my Olympics ended with an injury in the first round, and it's you're always grateful and blessed to have been there, and I'll always hold that and maintain it. But do we ever really let go of those what could have been in our lives? I don't know. So I worked at London 2012. I was part of the team that put that Olympics together, and even then it was a bit raw. I think 2016 is the first one where I'm actually managed to take a bit more of an emotional backseat and just really look forward to it.
Did the lead up to the game, the fact that we got a lot of questioning, a lot of worry before those games, help you make that disconnect a little bit because it's far away, it's all those things that's are not necessarily included with London?
If I'm honest, working with London was brilliant because we were determined to put on something the world had never seen before, and we had a bit of budget to do it, as you know. And I think that a lot of people when they did London were obviously approached to go to Rio, because a lot of people go games to games. And if I'm honest, with all respect, I thought it won't be the same. It won't be the same process of work because it's not. In London we bust it to work, and that's not necessarily the vibe that you're going to have in Rio because you've got beaches everywhere and everything's beautiful and fantastic. But it was having reached another pinnacle in Olympics. I think it was easier for me to decide that Rio would just be a spectator one. And if they've got problems, I wish them all well, but I don't have to get involved in that.
You mentioned your involvement with London 2012. What is your thought on Rio 2016 organization right now? A couple of controversies, especially with the cycling road race. Athletics is going to start next week. But what's your overall thoughts so far after day 5?
So Seb Coe, when he was chair of London, he always told this story how when he was visiting Athens as part of the preparation for that, stuff wasn't ready. And he said to one of the builders, "Hey, dude, honestly, are you going to be ready for kickoff day?" And the builder said, "Morning or afternoon?" And it's these things, they will go to the wire if they have to, as long as the athletes are safe. And the athletes are, their performance is facilitated. I think we can take a bit of an easier ride on the organisers because they're obviously doing their best. And if everyone's safe and happy, then there's not too much to be said.
One of the things that this show has dealt with a lot, I'm here in the city of Toronto, which hosted the Pan Am Games last year. There was a lot of controversy whether they'd be worthwhile. What I argued at the time was the infrastructure improvement for the sports infrastructure for the future generations was why you hosted games like that. Obviously, the Olympics are a different scale. You're in London. You were involved with the London Games. 4 years later, is there an example? Is there prime examples you can point to of how those games have benefited the people of London still today?
Yes and no. So it's a mixed bag, and I think that would be the case anywhere. The infrastructure is there. I mean, the park is amazing. The site, it's difficult to emphasize how much that site has changed. I mean, that area was nothing, and it was, in many ways, it was worse than nothing. It was old industrial wasteland, and now one of London's biggest parks is there. There's a new stadium which has the 2012 Athletics Championships, the next year World Championships. Has a new football team moving in. There's a new shopping centre there which brings jobs, which brings wealth to the area. So there's no doubt that there is a good local impact of that infrastructure spend. Cycling has picked up massively in the country. That's been a very popular sport. You see cyclists everywhere, way more than you used to now. And a lot of other sports have had a good impact initially from the games of people who wanted to join up. Whether that's sustainable enough over time to be worth the sorts of sums that cities invest, it is an argument. And it is, I don't think that we will have a clear conclusion on that. It's just a shame that so much discussion of something as great as the Olympics comes down to the money these days.
Yeah, and we covered a lot of the bidding process for the 2022 Winter Games, which we nicknamed the games no one wanted because cities just kept dropping off. Almaty and Beijing at the end, both countries that have centralized governments that can sort of control and dictate the attitude a little bit more. What does the IOC need to do in your mind to make these games desirable for cities again?
It's a difficult one because cities take these on in no small part because of the prestige. But with the prestige comes competition. If you don't put on as good a games as the last one, does the prestige go against you? You're spending a lot of money, and in this day and age, that's not easy to do and not easy to justify, and people are going to want to have a say on it. I think the IOC needs to make it far, far easier for nations and far, far more acceptable for nations and cities to hold these events without spending an absolute fortune on it. The IOC is not a business that is short of a penny. And whether or not they can contribute or just ease the sort of atmosphere around having to spend that much, they really need to try and cap the amount that cities feel they have to invest.
I want to bring you on the track for a second, Chris. Looking at your personal best, 10:19 in 2002, with the 19 win, when I was thinking those 0.5 of a second with the world's record, how can you describe those 0.5 of a second? What is that difference? How important those 0.5 of a second are?
So 0.5 of a second is a lifetime, right? That's you've got no hope of ever bridging that gap in a race. Trying to break down 0.5 of a second over the course of your career is easier in the early days, and of course, as you reach sort of 10:1, 10:0 speeds, it becomes either you're going to be a world beater or you'll get somewhere there. You'll get towards the 9:9, 9:8 stakes. When you're in a race and someone puts half a second on you, you know all about it. There's no recovering from that. So someone like Usain Bolt, when they say he's a game changer, there's no. I watched Beijing. I was sitting on my couch with a pair of crutches. I watched the guy run 9:6, shoe untied, arms all over the place, and immediately the game's changed now. This is not about running 9:9 and hoping for a medal anymore. Guys now run 9:9 and get gassed out, don't make the final.
Chris, let's take it to Rio and the 100-meter final and what you expect there. Usain Bolt is trying to do something historic, and he is a special athlete. There's no doubt about that. Special athlete in terms of what he's brought to track and field, what he's brought to athletics, what he's brought just in terms of his skill and taking that sport to a next level. Can he be touched? Is this the Olympics that he could be touched, or is he going to go out with 3 gold medals in a row?
Look, I'd go further on you saying that, he's a special human. This is a once in a lifetime, once in many lifetimes athlete. Someone like Michael Phelps, you don't see, there's not going to be another Usain Bolt in 5, 10 or 20 years. This is a guy that we should watch as much of as we can right now. Because when he's gone, he'll be gone. Can he do it again? The only person who defines whether Usain Bolt can win or not is Usain Bolt. And for the simple reason that Usain can go to a track and run 9.6 seconds, and nobody else can do that. So if Usain goes and he runs 9.7, maybe guys like Gatlin, maybe even guys like Bromell this year can be on terms with that. If he runs 9.6, which he's more than capable of doing, it's over. He's going home with a gold medal. So I think that sort of affords him a level of comfort that no other sprinter has had. And whether he shows it or not, or knows it, I'm sure he knows it. If you can go to the track and run 9.60 anything, no one out there is going to beat you.
We, Duane and I, are from Canada, and there is a young prodigy with a very limited experience on the international stage.
Our man, Andre de Grasse.
Exactly, Chris. You took the words out of my mouth. What are your thoughts on Andre de Grasse and how he stepped into the national scene in 2015?
What I like about Andre de Grasse is that he gets on with it. You know, he's not a talker. He's not a showboater. Kids run fast. He ran fast in the NCAAs. He's gone straight into the major games of that year, and he's run fast there. And so he's clearly a guy who can show up and deliver on the day. And, you know, that's more than half the battle done as a sprinter. So I don't think this will be his year, simply because guys like Brumell, Gatlin, and Bolt, and even Blake, if he steps back in form, again, de Grasse has got the potential to run 9.9 low, but these guys are running 9.7. So that's too big a gap to bridge, potentially. But he's undoubtedly one for the future years.
The story here is that he was discovered running in trainers in a basketball shorts, and someone just saw him run. So
it's the brilliant thing about sprints is that every kid wants to be fast. It's just when you realize you are fast, you realize it in a lot of different ways, and people have been hauled out from some really odd places.
It's a fun story, and he hasn't had a lot of world-class coaching just yet. So you're probably right that Tokyo is more the look there. But we're looking forward to see him here. That's in this show. In this show, we give our gold, silver, bronze, and wood medal performances. We thought we'd get your insight on that. And basically, if you're listening for the first time, the gold, silver, bronze are what they sound like, the top 3 performances overall across all sports, all nations in the Olympics, in our opinion. And the wood medal is something that we're a little disappointed in. So, Chris, I thought we'd get your insight on that. And we always start with the wood, so we end positive. So what would your wood medal so far be?
Well, you alluded to it earlier. It's the cycling road race. Now, you know, cycling is a dangerous sport, and I think that the cyclists take that on. But when I saw Van Vluten's crash, I was like, you know, this woman, she may never walk again. And I think when you've got a course like that, when you've got the best in the world, and you've got adverse conditions, simple things like, you know, when you've got 6-inch curbs for a storm drain sticking out of the track, put some cushioning down. But, you know, do something where you're not trying to make it so that there will never be an accident, because that's not possible. But I don't think that reasonably they could have done a lot more to prevent the sorts of injuries that she suffered there. And I think to come out of that with 3, you know, fractures in her spine, she's quite lucky. And when you're saying that, then I think that more could have been done to prevent that situation.
Yeah, and luckily she seems to be recovering. She's apparently flying back to the Netherlands on Friday, according to her website. So that is good news there. Chris, what would your bronze medal performance so far be?
So I'm gonna pass over a lot of the British performances, even though they've been fantastic. But my bronze performance was Lily King of the US in the 100-meter breaststroke gold, in no small part because of her take and stance on drug cheats on Yulia Efremova, and then going into the press conference and addressing guys like Tyson Gay and Justin Gatlin. I think she showed a lot of guts, a lot of ability, and she's not been afraid to go out and defend clean sport, and we really need more athletes like that. All of that on top of her, you know, being an Olympic champion.
All right, and your silver?
Rafaela Silva in the 50 kg judo for women. I mean, you know, I'm going to spare how much I talk about it because I'm going to sit in the grass and get all choked up emotional. But, you know, that's what the Olympics is about. Someone who's come through the adversity, who's come up, world-class performer, disqualified at the last games, here in front of our home crowd. And, you know, the look on her face when she realized what she'd done, you know, if you can't feel that, then you're probably, something's a bit missing inside.
And we put that as one of our medals as well. It was a truly Olympic moment for sure. And let's wrap up with your gold medal performance so far.
And I will get emotional about this one. Oscar Figueroa Mosquera in the weightlifting, 62 kilo weightlifting, 33 years old, goes for his Olympic record, doesn't make it, but I don't know if you saw it. You know, he ties up his Olympic gold, falls to his knees. You know, couldn't be more thankful, more humble. Takes off his shoes, retires, kisses his shoes, kisses the plates, thanks the crowd, and that's it. And you know, what better way is there to end a career for a fantastic guy who's delivered at the top level and has given the spectators such a fantastic show.
All right, Chris, I do very much appreciate your time today and for your commitment to the Olympic movement and for your great career. So thanks so much, and we will hopefully maybe talk to you down the line one day again soon.
Love to. Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Cheers.
You are listening to 5 Rings Daily on SBN Radio. Your daily Olympic fix for all you Olympic freaks out there. sportspodcastingnetwork.com. Join us on Twitter at 5 Rings Podcast and at SportsPodNet. And we are back on 5 Rings Daily.
Worst ways to spend 15 minutes than talking to him, eh?
Wow. Thank you so much, Chris. That was amazing.
Yeah, no, I remember that race too. I remember him pulling up, and I kind of want to. I always do a podcast in front of a TARDIS, so I kind of want to make my little TARDIS work go back so I can cheer for him more in 2004 and before. So he's a nice guy, and I appreciate him taking time. Clearly, he was walking around London there, so a little bit of the background made me want to go back to London. I haven't been in a while; it's been too long. Anyway, so it's good times there, and I enjoyed that a great deal. Hope you did as well.
Exactly. Well, I did for sure.
All right. Now that we've had that positive gushing moment, let's talk about our wood medals, Kevin.
Exactly. Let's start with your wood for once.
All right. I want to talk about a Canadian journalist by the name of David Schultz. Well, I don't want to talk about him. I want to talk about his tweet and the attitude that's behind it. David Schultz, to set it up, is a Canadian hockey writer. Well, he was a hockey writer. He's now on the Canadian TV beat for the Globe and Mail, who's most famous for appearing on primetime sports wearing giant Hawaiian shirts. That's kind of what his fame is for, as much as I'd call it that. And I have nothing against him personally.
That's his gimmick. Basically, that's his gimmick.
Yeah, and and he's a puckhead. Nothing matters. So he tweets out yesterday, and this got a ton of attention here in this country. And it's not so much the tweet, but it represents an attitude that's out there. And this is my wood medal of the day. It's not really about Rio, but it's about the Olympic and how people interact with the Olympics. Ah, yes, it must be the Olympics. That year when third place finishers are called quote unquote wins by the cheerleaders with media passes. David, shut up. You are a hockey writer that is nearing retirement, that has a very narrow and pathetic view on what sport is. A third place finisher when you have worked your whole life and that is what you were capable of on the day, and you get on that podium, which by the way is defined. Podiums are not unique to the damn Olympics, David. They're all over sports. The top three are often seen dating back to forever ago as being the athletes that you were celebrating at the end. That is why we define it as a win to win a bronze medal. Any other definition is being so North American professional sports focused that it makes me want to scream. So that is my bronze medal to anyone who thinks that way. This second loser bullshit, excuse the language, is just ridiculous. And it so misses the point on what sport is about. And that's why I love this show and I do this show, is because I want to promote the idea of what the true Olympic spirit is. Forget the IOC for a second if you're listening to this and you're cringing at that. What the actual Olympic spirit is, that the IOC does its best to try and screw over sometimes, but hasn't quite done, because it's such a brilliant concept that makes us all love it despite its flaws.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. You want to go with your wood?
Yeah, exactly. My wood is Look Low. The swimmer, I think he's Australian. The Australian swimmer that literally has been talking for like 2 years, talking trash about how I want to beat Michael Phelps in that 200-meter butterfly.
South African.
I want to beat him. I want to be better than him. Wrote a book about how he's going to beat him and all that. And he had that anticipation and that hype. And before that race yesterday, first of all, this wood is for Leclos. We'll talk about Phelps later in positive and whatever which way you want to talk about it. But Leclos' attitude, he kind of painted himself in a corner, talking so much trash about that race that literally the pressure made him choke, not even on the podium. And my wood not goes to his performance, because on any given day, anything can happen. My wood goes to his attitude towards that day, his antagonistic attitude, trying to get the world against him by hating on the most popular swimmer in that race. You know, sometimes if you spit in the air, it's going to land right back on your face. And guess what? That's what happened last night.
Yeah, well, I don't know how dignified Phelps was in his win. We'll maybe talk about that later.
Exactly. That's what I said. We'll mention that later. But for my wood, look low is that part for the wood.
All right, yeah, fair enough. A lot of trash. Look, and I'm not someone who is completely opposed to banter. We'll call it.
There's a way to do it, but you got to back it up. Otherwise, you're going to be the wood. Exactly.
get your bingo card out here. We'll make our hockey reference. I mean, we already kind of did with David Schultz, but did PK Subban. I love PK Subban. He does banter. He's an exciting player, but I don't think he's disrespectful. That's my opinion. At any rate.
There's that line that he doesn't cross, exactly.
Yeah, all right. Let's go to my bronze medal. My bronze medal, Kevin, is going to be a general one, and I talked about this during the Commonwealth Games. The coverage which we had in the network. If you really want to go back in the archives and listen to me talk about the Commonwealth Games, I encourage you to do. And hell, if you're listening to the show, you might want to do that. They're there. Anyway, my bronze medal goes to, in general, the aiming sports and the format changes that they've both done. The shooting and archery is what I'm calling the aiming sports. Over the past few years, they've changed from what used to be just a straight range kind of format where everyone would shoot and then they would take a certain amount of a certain amount of athletes, shooters, archers, and put them onto a final. Then they shoot all again, and then the top scorers would win. Not very compelling to watch. You're watching people shoot for an hour, right? Like, it's not very exciting.
One after the other, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, what they've changed to is a dual format where you have two shooters or archers standing side by each. The TV's on them, and they shoot, boom, but one shot, one shot, one shot, one shot. So you can see directly whether they're beating the person beside them. It's a much more, it's bracket format. It's TV friendly. Again, it's not exciting in the sense of a speed and power would be, where you're going to jump out of your seat, but it's compelling.
He needs the bullseye to win the gold medal. Can he make it? He did. Come on, you can make it. That'd be way more fun, right?
If you're cheering for the athlete, of course. Especially if there's someone you know.
Well, it might be your father.
Well, exactly. Well, yeah. I mean, they're a little younger than that. I mean,
I was thinking about the listeners' fathers.
Yes, exactly. Anyhow, look. Okay, yes, my father's not in the Olympics. He's 76. So there you go. No, I wouldn't say I have watched a ton of them so far, but I have watched some of them so far. Like, at sometimes, especially in that lull when they're there, the mid-morning lull, there's often been shooting or archery on, and I put it on as my second screen a couple times so far. And to me, that's telling that I'm interested enough. Whereas in the past, it never would have considered me. I probably would have just went out and for a walk if there was a lull in the coverage rather than watch the shooting. But now, hey, they've got me in the house more. So awesome. The irony of the Olympics, how it makes me sedated. But at any rate, that's my wood medal, or my bronze medal, is the aiming sports change to a dual format. And it's interesting to watch. And if you have a chance to check out the streams for a little while, you'll see what I mean. The shooting's a little more fast-paced than the archery, because the archery is so long to shoot. The archery's a little brighter because you have that big bullseye and it's kind of pretty. But I would recommend the trap shooting in particular is kind of fun to watch, because they're outside and there's that big puff of it's pink. The traps are pink in this Olympics, so when they hit the trap, there's a puff of pink in the air, so it's kind of fun. All right, Kevin, where would you go from here?
My bronze, Tara Whittam's time trial women's for the cycling. She finished 15th in the time trial today, and she was disappointed at the end, but it was very difficult condition for the women's time trial today. Wet, rainy, cold. We talked about the course and how this time around they didn't have a lot of climb. They had that 1.3 kilometer climb next to the mountain, but they didn't actually go close to the mountain, so that was a positive. But for the time trial, we talked about the road conditions, so add some humidity, some water, and you're trying to do an event that's different. You're always trying to go fast to exert yourself. Tara Whittam was affected by those conditions. She's not the best cyclist on wet roads, and she was able to make the most of it. 15th position, 7th for Caroline Canuel. Sorry, Evelyn and Canuel. I'll get it. So I'm happy for Whittam. It's disappointed for her. She was hoping for a top 10 and top 5 if the conditions and everything fell into place. It's a tough race, a lot of great names. We'll talk about this later when we talk about my other medals. But for Tara Whittam, 15th for her. She was never going to use the excuse of the conditions and the weather on the day. I will. It's unfortunate that she's 15th. She deserved, and she works for much better.
She was one of the first out of the chute too.
Exactly, and she had worse conditions than Christy Armstrong, who finished and won, and she was the last cyclist to go. She had maybe a little less puddles than Whittam. Maybe that would be the biggest difference.
All right. Let's go to my silver medal, and we've already talked about it briefly. I'm giving my silver medal to Michael Phelps. Okay,
okay, same here. So we have the first tie of the Rio Olympics, and it's Michael Phelps.
All right, I'll give you my rationale first, and then you can jump in after that. So we'll do this kind of together, and then we'll move to our golds. Michael Phelps got the silver medal. First off, I'm going to be positive. He's obviously one of the most brilliant Olympians who's ever walked the earth. He is amazing in terms of what he does. The fact that he's come back as a swimmer at 31 and been able to replicate what he did as a young person and still be not quite as dominant. In 04, there's been I don't think you'll ever see his dominance as you did in 04 and 08. However, he's certainly coming back and is still winning medals and winning individual medals, and he will likely get the all-time record, which dates back, thanks to Olympic Statman, dates back not only to the gymnast of the 50s, but also to the ancient games. So there you go.
So, wow. Michael Phelps would have fit in right in Olympia.
Yeah, he's gonna break a 2,000-year-old record. So there you go.
Make an Aristotle joke or something.
Yeah, and look, he's been brilliant to watch, and I can appreciate him as someone who loves high-end athletics. I have never really cheered for him in any true way. I've often cheered for who's going against him because you want to see the superstar. Different with Bolt, though, and maybe that's where this will go here. You want to see, like, you're always cheering for the upset, right? And especially when he's won 6,000 medals in a row. This Olympics was a little bit different. I think he's gone a little new age with the cupping therapies and stuff like that.
The fact that he's got a baby boomer.
So it's all fine. It's all good. So he gets the silver medal, both for that amazing accomplishment over the course of his career and being a 31-year-old, still being the top in his field by a couple strokes there as well. So the silver medal for that. But he also is getting a silver medal rather than a gold from me because his celebration last night was DB Central.
What did you like? The finger wagging?
All of it. Good God, man. Like, you're not a god among men. You're a swimmer. Settle down a little bit, Michael. That was a bit embarrassing. And Mark Tewksbury here in Canadian television even went, he was much more diplomatic than I'm being right now. He said, I could have done with a little more humility, is what he said. So at any rate, that's
and he made a big
Canadian in us that's saying that.
And he made a big point of saying, you don't have to listen like the guy, but what he have done is quite impressive. So that tells a lot of the story as well. My silver is Michael Phelps, like we mentioned, but I would go even further to say that it's the hashtag Phelps face. Oh, how that entertained me over the last 2 days. Ever since the semifinal, where Michael Phelps looked at Leclos in the warming area, he was on his chair, hoodie up, with the earphones, and just looking at Leclos with the most mean, devilish type of face. And that was captured, obviously, by camera and by phones and by social media and the amount of memes available on the hashtag Phelps face. You're having a bad day? Take your phone, open your Twitter app, write hashtag Phelps face. You'll thank me later.
Yeah, well, you can get one that it's the Snapchat kind of stuff with like flames coming out of his eyes and burning. Yeah, it's fun that way. So anyway, Phelps. Look, to be serious, we talked about Usain Bolt being a special athlete that we should enjoy. Phelps is the same way. There's clear way.
His 21st gold last night, Duane. That's crazy. He has more medal than majority of the countries in the Olympics in their history.
And part of that's because he's a swimmer, of course. But yeah,
but he's a good one.
I do sometimes think that they should adjust the medal standings to reflect a more balance of medals. So like, here's my thought, and I've been playing this in my head, is that rather than list like how many golds, how many silvers, how many bronze each country have, that you take what percentage of the medals in each sport. So you give 1 gold, 1 silver, 1 bronze for each sport in the Olympics. And then you figure out what percentage of golds the U.S. has won in swimming. And you give them, like, if it's 20%, you give them 0.2 of a gold medal. And if they've won 30% of the silvers, they get 0.3 of a silver medal. And that way it's going to balance to see what country is performing the best overall. Can you follow what I'm saying? It's a bit
I understand what you mean. It's just you don't want to devalue anything as well. So that's the other side of it. You don't want to necessarily have one event, because I do understand what you mean, and it's true that the amount of medals in that discipline compared to, example, the rugby tournament, which is only 3 for the entire tournament as a whole, there's a big disparity there. But I understand what you mean.
Yeah, it just to be a way, if you're really. First off, medal standings, and the IOC actually does not officially recognize medal standings. That's a misnomer that people have.
It doesn't exist. Yeah, it's created by everybody else except the IOC.
Yeah, in their official records, they will sort them by golds, just so that they have some kind of record. But nonetheless, it's not actually an official designation. Like each,
there's no reward, there's no trophy.
Yeah, it's like not like everyone on the, if the USA wins the medal standing, it's not like the entire USA Olympic team gets a gold medal.
Exactly.
Right? Like
it's not like they get a trophy or they get their flag etched in stone next to the Olympic, which actually that could be a good idea though. Next to the city where the Olympics are, if you win the most amount of golds, you get your flag embedded next to the Olympic rings in that city forever. That'd probably be the only reward possible that you could do.
Yeah, we probably need to move a little bit away from from that kind of stuff though, and keep it about the individual athletes. No, nonetheless, but that's kind of what I'm thinking there. All right, let's move on. I said I started today, so I'll start this one as well. And we'll go to the gold medal. My gold medal is going to Fiji's rugby 7 teams. Yesterday they beat Brazil 40-12 and Argentina 21-14. That's results that weren't unexpected. They weren't particularly dramatic at the time. They play the USA today to determine whether they win the group. And why I'm giving them the gold medal, though, is that this is a significant. Those 2 wins has clinched them a berth in the second round of the rugby tournament, which means if they were to win, if they win today against the US, that will mean that they win this. Or if they win their quarterfinal, which is coming up later today, and they're going to go in as a 3rd seed, they're going to have a much weaker opponent, will mean that they will guarantee themselves a game to play for a medal. And Fiji has never won an Olympic medal. They've been in the game since 1956. This is, I think, a brilliant story and one of the main reasons why rugby needs to stay in these games, just because it does open up Olympic chances to a big part of the world that has been overlooked in the past. And Fiji is the team that's taking advantage of that right now. So the fact that they have put themselves in a position to potentially at least play for a medal for the first time in that country's history, I think is something that is really nice and something that I will be watching for later today. And I'm cheering for them at this point in time because
you mentioned it in your preview when we mentioned it last week, Duane. Fiji never won a medal at the Olympics, and now the rugby is concluded. It's finally their chance.
Exactly, and they did what they had to do yesterday. So I wanted to give them. In general, this rugby 7s, as I said yesterday, has been just absolutely brilliant. It's too bad that the Canadian men didn't quite qualify. They were close, but they didn't to give us a local interest. But nonetheless, it's been compelling on both the men's and the women's side of this draw, and I think it's won a lot of fans, as I said yesterday. And this men's tournament is wide open, so it's going to be very interesting to see how it sprints to the finish over the next 2 days. Kevin.
Exactly, and speaking of great performances, Christine Armstrong, 3rd time in a row, she wins the time trial on the women's side in cycling on the road race. She won. She's 43 years old now, and since London, she had 3 major hip surgeries. In London, she won the gold medal, having broken her collarbone 7 weeks prior to the game. It's crazy. When you think about time trial, our collarbone is very used. Well, it's always used in cycling, true, but with your position, with your different handlebar that you're leaned on the actual handlebars, your collarbone is constantly having some shocks and bumps and bruises. So the amount of pain and discomfort she endured in 2012 to win and those hip surgeries made us realize how tough she were. But today she proved it once again in a tough course, wet course, condition not easy. It wasn't the warmest day in Rio. She was able to beat everybody else. The world champion Velusam did not have a great performance. She finished off the podium. She was the penultimate rider. Armstrong was the last one, being the Olympic champion. She beat everybody else, and she didn't even realize that she won. At the end, she was so exhausted. You remember I talked about the TT, when you have to leave everything you have on the road, otherwise you could have gone faster. That's exactly what happened. She collapsed, went on her side. She looked like she was hit by a truck. She was bleeding from her nose. She was shaking uncontrollably. She was trying to regain her composure. Then she got back up. Then she looked, and she realized that she had won the Olympic Games for the 3rd time in a row.
And such an amazing event in terms of the ability to just work your way through that threshold of pain, which is something that is just it's mind-boggling when you think about it, Kevin.
From the United States, by the way, I forgot to mention, but Christian Armstrong from the United States, one of the best cyclists out there.
All right. Okay. We're going to wrap it here. That was, I hope you enjoyed our interview. We have another one that I think you're going to enjoy a great deal lined up for Friday. I'll announce that once I get it 1,000,000% confirmed, because I don't like to announce things before they're 1,000,000% confirmed, Kevin, but I'm pretty sure it'll go through.
Exactly.
Nonetheless, hopefully you'll enjoy that. And we're going to take a brief break now on the network. We're going to come back in, what do you think, 12 o'clock? Do you want to go noon, Kevin?
Yep, noon will be perfect. So from a noon for Soccer Today.
Noon at Soccer Day. Until that time, Kevin, as always,
own your podium, folks. You were listening to SPN, the Sports Podcasting Network. Visit us, sportspodcastingnetwork.com.